Welcome into hour number 3 of the Morning Rush. Want to go to the phone lines and welcome in Alan Hahn, part of Bart and Hahn on ESPN Radio. Alan, I know that we're all gearing up for the Super Bowl this week, but I kind of want to start with you guys moving from a New York-centered show to a national-based show. And I know you've done print. I know you've done a lot of different things in sports media. For you and Bart, as of late, what is that obstacle and obstacles really been like from going just from a New York-centered show to a national branding show?
It's a great question because that was kind of what we were faced with when the news came out. It was, oh, well, you guys are a New York show. How are you going to be a national show? And we both kind of laughed about it. I mean, I'm a New Yorker. I was born in New York. Bart is more of a transplant. He's a Detroit guy. And then he played in Baltimore. He's played in New York. So he's kind of been around. But I've traveled so much, like my roots are here, but I've been all over the country that it's like I'm comfortable that way. And for a year together, we did our show together. And we would say to each other, like, we really do a national show. We talk about pretty much everything, whatever the biggest headlines are. That's what we end up doing. We don't spend a lot of time talking about who should be the third, in the Mets rotation, who should be the third pitcher or, the backup point guard of the Knicks. We don't spend too much time on that stuff. But so for us, it was more of a comfortable transition that we felt like, give us time and we'll show you. We really do spend time talking about just about everything. And it's been great because we get calls from all over the country, and that's been the most fun, just being able to connect now with a larger audience.
I do all that and ask you my first question, real question on sports, and Jets question. Now, as weird as it is, being here in Arkansas, Alan, my brother is a diehard New York Jets fan. It's always been that way. We got a chance to see a game when we were 6 and 7 years old, and it was incredible. Just an NFL atmosphere to take in as a young kid is awesome. Yeah. And he's gone through some years. This is not the years when Bart was on the team, and they actually got to the AFC Championship 2 consecutive years. Mm-hmm. They have gone through some trash years. And the big question right now, and I know you guys just got a chance to talk with Jets head coach Robert Saleh, what's the deal with Deshaun Watson? So you have a better sense having your ear to the ground in New York, getting a chance to talk to Coach Saleh. In your best estimation, Alan, do they make a move for Deshaun Watson?
I think if Deshaun Watson becomes available, and that is going to be for Houston to have to get to that point, and I think before you get to April, they're going to have that, that moment. They're going to have that, realization that if we're going to do it, we got to do it now before the draft because that's where you get your best assets in the trade. And if that's the case, if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm on the phone. I don't hang up. I spam call. I do whatever it takes. I wait outside the facility in Houston, just, holding up a stereo like in the movie Say Anything, like whatever it takes.
Great reference, by the way.
Just to get, whatever it takes, just to get them to talk to me first, because your feeling is if you're the Jets, no one can offer you more than we can. The number 2 overall pick allows you to not only say, well, if we take Sam, we don't love Sam Darnold, we can also take a quarterback at 2 if we want and have those 2 guys to choose from. Because when you move on from a Deshaun Watson, just look at all the places that have had franchise quarterbacks and then they have moved on. There's been a lot of losing. I mean, Buffalo went a long time after Jim Kelly. They couldn't figure out who was going to be their quarterback. That's a great example right there. We know Cleveland certainly hasn't figured it out. And the Jets are another team that they haven't figured it out. Troy Aikman left the Cowboys, and it took them a long time. I mean, they've won, 1, 2 playoff games since Troy Aikman left? So it's really hard when you lose a franchise quarterback to recover from that. And if you have the opportunity to get 2 young guys, one in the draft, one that's already got a few years experience, that's a pretty good thing. And if you want to say Miami, Tua Tagovailoa's still got a lot to prove, if you ask me.
We're talking about
the 3 picks, so, I really just feel like if you're the Jets, you have to be all in. So, yes, I do think they'll very much be involved once Texans decide it's time to move on from Watson.
We're talking with Alan on ESPN Radio here on the Morning Rush. Alan, let's talk about this Super Bowl. I think the biggest storyline right now, man, is the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. No Schwartz, no Fisher, and I'm the guy's center that I just am blanking on his head that they just lost for COVID protocol. But and Andy Reid's an offensive line guy. We know the Legion of Zoom. We know what Patrick Mahomes possesses at his prowess. But I'm concerned with Ndamukong Suh, Jason Pierre-Paul, Devin White. They had 5 sacks against Aaron Rodgers this past week. Is that the biggest concern for Andy Reid heading into Sunday?
Oh, it absolutely is. I can't talk about it enough. I mean, and this is Kilgore, by the way, is the center.
That's it.
I know I
could not forget
earlier today. Yeah, I feel that could be 3 pieces out of your, 3/5 of your offensive line missing. That could change. That could take away some things that the Chiefs want to do. It's huge. And look at how bad Drew Brees looked. Look at how much impactful the Bucs were. I just feel like you can't overlook it. You absolutely cannot overlook that as a big part of this game. The matchup's going to be Brady and Mahomes, no doubt about it. That's going to be what we talk about. But the Chiefs' offensive line will be the make or break for the Chiefs, whether or not they can win or not. And you got to keep an eye on Kilgore in that situation there, because he's got to pass, I think it's 5 consecutive days. He has to have negative tests. His true contact tracing is why he's in the protocol. He doesn't have it, but he has to now clear 5 days before they allow him to play. So that's going to be a huge story going into the game.
And as it often is, the quarterbacks are at the centerpiece of the conversation heading into a Super Bowl. And I know initially, and this is just kind of a prisoner of the moment, oh my goodness, this is the greatest Super Bowl quarterback matchup we've ever seen. Well, there's been some really good ones, Alan. And even, like, I'm 26, and I've gotten to see some fantastic ones. Like, for example, Ben Roethlisberger and Aaron Rodgers, that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, those are just a few. But you go way back, like Staubach and Bradshaw, and there's just been some fantastic plays out. But I'll ask this to you, because I look at this matchup as the presumed GOAT. Now, depending on the Joe Namath conversation, I heard you guys talking about him this week. I know there's a lot to be said there. But either the one or two best quarterbacks of all time versus maybe the potentially one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Are we making too much out of this quarterback matchup that's in front of us this weekend?
Not at all. It's the reason why we let our show with it. I think what Tony Romo said was very, very interesting, how he put this. He called this a legacy game. You're right. We've seen great marquee quarterback matchups before. We've had that in the past. But this is a passing of the torch. And because we've never seen one dynasty hand off to another. Now, of course, it's not Brady and the Patriots, but it's still Brady and the Brady dynasty now. It's no longer the Patriot dynasty because he's back again, and it's 10. I mean, 10 is insane. So he's in this game. And I love that. Romo pointed this out, and it's so true. So I looked it up. So when Brady won his first Super Bowl, he was 24 years old. Mahomes won his first Super Bowl last year. He was 24 years old.
Wow.
So your timing now is right there, where if Mahomes, who a lot of people look at and say, this guy could be the next dynasty quarterback. Well, okay, if that's the case, you got to win this one. If you don't, Brady now has 7. And now you've got to not win 5 more. You've got to win 6 more just to catch him. And that takes durability. That takes longevity. That's not just skill anymore. Now it's Pat Mahomes. You have to. I'm sorry, Patrick. I don't get in trouble.
His mom will get on you, Alan.
That's right. Yes, I always correct myself. Patrick Mahomes was dad in New York. When his dad pitched for the Mets, he was Pat. When you are 40, 41, 42, guess what? You still have to be playing at a high level. You still have to be playing. So that's something also that will factor in if you give Brady one more. This is like Tiger Woods chasing Jack Nicklaus. This is the same thing. It's can he catch him, and will there be enough time left in his career to do it? So if you give Brady one more, lucky 7, I think it locks it up for Brady, and I don't think Mahomes can catch him. And I think that's just reasonable considering all the things that have to work out for him. Team has to stay good, but you have to stay healthy. And those are 2 variables you can never count on.
Alan, I know we're short on time, so we'll get through 2 more of these real quick. I think a lot has been made with the Tom Brady and Bill Belichick conversation, and we see Tom Brady in another Super Bowl, and people just automatically assume this is the reason the Patriots had the dynasty. And I'm kind of like, whoa. It's been 1 year. Let's just wait a little bit. Now, Tom has been fantastic, especially down the stretch. They've yet to lose off the bye. Is that conversation done? Is it clearly Brady the winner of the 2 if he wins a Super Bowl this year?
I think it does. It does take you to that place where it just you feel like it was definitely Brady. But here's something to think about. Greg Popovich always said, why did I win? Because of my players. It was always because of the players, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is Greg Popovich doing now after Tim Duncan, after his big three?
No
right?
Manu, no Tony Parker.
Like, how, Kawhi left, and he left. He wasn't happy there anymore. He was miserable, demanded a trade, wanted out of there. And how have the Spurs been since then? They're good, not great. They're just good. But they're not great anymore. And so I wonder if Belichick now heads the same way as Greg Popovich, where you recognize that he can coach, he knows what he's doing, but he's not easy to play for. And that's where now you wonder, unless he can draft like they got Kawhi, unless they can draft another superstar quarterback, you feel like Matt Stafford reportedly didn't want to go there. Mm-hmm. Anywhere but New England. So I think Belichick and Greg Popovich are two guys that you could sort of put now in the same place. Great coaches, coach great dynasties, but once they lost their key element, which is the player, they became regular coaches. Good coaches, but never really won again. And I feel like that's what tells you it's always going to be the player. When you have a superstar, the superstar is why you win. The coach helps you win, but the superstar is why you win.
Alan, that's a fantastic parallel. Let me top off the interview with this, man. We've had this conversation this morning. NCAA football, according to EAA Sports, is making a comeback. Now, it's going to be about 2 to 3 years. Alan, how old are you, man?
I'm 49.
Okay, so you've got 20.
So I remember NCAA football. I actually, believe it or not, one of my first jobs out of college was working for Electronic Arts, which is the parent company of EA Sports.
Okay.
So I was in San Mateo, California. I was there at the headquarters, and I remember being all part of that stuff and the NCAA football game for Sega and Super Nintendo, which all the old heads out there will just nod their head going, man, I miss those games. 16-bit. Those were fun.
Okay. So the reason I ask this is because we've asked, and the majority of our listeners are way older than me. They're about more or your age, about 40, 49, 50-ish. I'd say that's a good ballpark. And whether it's GoldenEye, like James Bond, Mario Kart, Mario Party, there's a variety of different games, like Pong. That was my dad's favorite game. Alan, for your money, as we let you go here, what is your favorite video game of all time?
NHL 94.
Okay.
Played it all night long. NHL 94 was, first of all, it was also in one of the great movies of the 90s of all time. Make Gretzky's head bleed. It's just such a fun game. Jeremy Roenick going backdoor with the backhand every time. That was like Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl. Jeremy Roenick backhand goals was just like Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl. Unstoppable.
Alan Hahn, ESPN Radio, part of Bard and Hahn. You can hear him on ESPN Arkansas, hitthatline.com from 1 to 3 every single weekday. Alan, we really appreciate you making some time for us this morning, man.
You got it. It's still a lot of fun. Appreciate you.